Ladies and gentlemen, free speech zones, all this zoning, this new federal bill that all water will now be federal, wells, rainwater, everything. It's called tyranny. And they certainly use zoning as one of the most abusive forms of corruption out there. All right, finishing up with Pastor Dave Jones, who presided over a flock of 15 people in outside San Diego. His own property, his own parking. Can't do that in America. But they stood up and said no, and the establishment backed off. I guess the big issue here is, for both of you in closing, and then closing comments from you both, is when you said you had a bunch of conversations with the zoning department. Sounds like at first they weren't backing down. They were going to go along with this. The higher-ups were backing this. Yes, you're not allowed to have 15 people over for dinner in America because we're the bureaucrats, we're your gods. You're just here to pay taxes and shut up and drink your fluoride water and take your vaccines and provide children for us for the CPS to adopt out. I mean, basically, did they back off immediately, or how fast did they back off? Because that's your answer, whether or not this was a rogue minion or whether this was higher-ups, because I know it's the higher-ups because I see this all over the country over and over again.
You're exactly right, and this is Dave Jones. I wanted to say that because it wasn't a rogue. We had 6 conversations with them. We appealed to them first when the code enforcement officer came. Secondly, when we got the permit, the citation, we started to call them, 3 phone calls. We talked to the planning, land use department, and then the zoning department, and every conversation we had with them, we were told that we were wrong and that we were not in compliance, and that we had to stop the Bible study. This was, again, it was never a parking issue. It went on for 5 weeks before the attorney, Broyles, and that, when we met together. There were 9 people in a room and at the county's office, and they were once again positioning themselves that it was an issue with religious assembly. Never brought up that it was parking. They're just hiding behind that.
But
now.
Then their bluff didn't work, did it, Mr. Broyles?
No, absolutely. And you were asking about lawsuits or winning it another way, and this was one in the court of public opinion. The outrage and anger that was expressed at the county once this went viral on the internet and once the media got involved. I mean, across the board, we got positive coverage in the media. And the pressure that was exerted on the county, and once they read our demand letter, once they met with us and knew we were serious, they began to back off, and then within a week,
But I want to understand from
you,
Mr. So they backed off and apologized. I want to know from you, though, sir, because you're around these snakes more than I am. How do they get so whacked out of their mind on a power trip that they think in America you can't have people over for dinner? I mean, what has happened to this country? Why are most of the counties I know behaving just like this? What is their malfunction? Where do these people come from?
I think it's a combination of things. I think for one part, these bureaucrats, they look at their own laws and their own regulations, and to them, those laws become above the Constitution of the United States. They start seeing those laws and ordinances as God, in a sense, and they worship those gods, and they apply those gods in a way that, in their minds, is not inconsistent with their worldview. And they start overruling, in a sense, the first principles, the First Amendment to the United States Constitution, which obviously the rest of us see as more important. That's one thing that starts happening with these bureaucrats. The other thing that's happening, I think, is that there's a very anti-Christian bias being expressed in our society today. And so that helps make it more palatable in their own minds to apply their laws in a very unethical and almost illegal manner to violate fundamental First Amendment rights.
Well, this is one step away from Rome or Communist China, because in Communist China, you can have a church. It's just official state approved. And with the 501c3 and with the clergy response teams and the feds, saddling up next to the churches and trying to get them on the faith-based payroll, total violation of the First Amendment. Now they are targeting more and more home churches and going after those. And so it's only a few short steps to living in the Soviet Union.
That's right.
And yeah, I agree with that. One of the things that was ironic about this case is that we were interviewed by CNN, Fox News. Everybody gave the story great coverage, but one of the most interesting interviews we did was with Voice of America, which ironically broadcast into communist China. And Pastor Jones and I talked several times about the irony of that communist China, where now actually Christianity has grown through the house church movement. Here in the United States, that's starting to be shut down potentially. And so the irony there was pretty stunning.
Well, I'm not going to start preaching at people, but there's nothing more Christian than having it in your house. That's the way it's supposed to be, and the establishment doesn't like it. I think a lot of the big churches don't like it as well, and they're kind of getting in bed with the government, and it's just incredibly dangerous. Anything else, Pastor Dave Jones or your lawyer, Dean Broyles, that you'd like to add?
I'd just like to say I appreciate some of your comments that you've made, and it was a shock to us that somebody would have a mindset that they could tell us what to do behind our closed doors. We appealed to them on that, and we were just blown away with the thought that they could sit in their chair or go to their house and think they could do what they wanted to, but they could tell me I couldn't have 15 people over to read the Bible and pray. It still is a shock to us, and that's the truth. That's the true story here, and it wasn't parking. And the public needs to know that they are going to continue this line. I'm sure of it, because what they learned is that they can go to the public and just say it's a parking issue, and we watch it diffuse the public. They're still talking to me, say, "Well, Pastor Dave, of course you have to park right." That was never the issue.
No, I understand. They always distract things off what they've really done and still try to make you the victim and never even own up. I mean, if they're going to carry out this tyranny, they should debate it from that point. It's just,
Absolutely.
It's so deceptive. It's just, they are very wicked. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Absolutely.
I would just add that, a lot of people really still cannot believe that this story actually happened, and we've been telling everybody it's true. So if you want to verify what happens, please visit our website, wclplaw.org. All the important documents are on there, including the citation, our demand letter to the county, their response and apology, and it's all true. And it, as Pastor said, had nothing to do with traffic or parking.
All right, gentlemen. Well, we just hope that other people listening around the country understand, or people listening to this later as it's archived on the internet, understand that you need to stand up to these people and stop being basically domesticated to live in a cross between Nazi Germany and Soviet Russia with a little bit of Fidel's Cuba mixed in. I mean, this is just mind control. It's thought crime. It's discrimination. And we commend you, Mr. Broyles, and you, Pastor Jones. And if anything develops in this, we'll talk again. And Dean, I know you're busy, but anytime. I know you work on a lot of other cases that don't seem to hit the zeitgeist and get this attention, and some cases that are even more egregious. So you've got our email and our contact info, hopefully. So please give us a heads up on some of the other cases where they've got these families cornered with these jackals and hyenas using their trumped-up, phony bureaucratic lingo to violate the Bill of Rights Constitution. So we'll talk to you again as this unfolds further. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, gentlemen, take care. Yeah, I meant to just have them on about 15 minutes, but you just keep wanting to get into the detail, because it's not just that they're violating your rights, telling you what you can do in your house. It's that then they lie about what they did later and never face up to the scum they are.